I explained everything that isn't canon in the DCU. Guys, all new people should watch this video because I'm surprised at how many people are like, wait, so this isn't Henry Cavill's Superman, or it is and they recast him? They don't know what's going on, which is one of the things I think was dumbest by James Gunn, is he didn't make it clear to people that it's an absolute reboot of the DCU. And that's what this is going to explain. So let's check it out. And first of all, let's see if he's right?
The DCU is one of the strangest reboots we've ever seen in comic book movie history. Normally, when a franchise restarts, the old universe gets tossed aside and the slate is wiped clean. But that's not what James Gunn did.
Is it not? Am I correct? See, now I'm a fan, and I'm confused. I thought it was just wiped clean. Oh, is he talking about like Batman? I don't know, guys. Put in the comments what things. How did he not just wipe it clean? Now I'm a loser.
Instead, the DCU is both a hard reboot and a soft reboot, depending on where you look. The final years of the DCEU only made things worse. The Flash was marketed as the reset button, the film that would streamline all the messy continuity and set the stage for the future.
Making it sound like you might possibly have more Flash films, but we all know that's never going to happen.
But instead of clarity, it created even more confusion. George Clooney's sudden cameo as Bruce Wayne, Ezra Miller's Flash still existing, no solid explanation of what timeline we were left with. It was supposed to be a clean break, but felt more like a patch job.
I'll explain as simply as I possibly can, I promise. They were all Batman. They were all Bruce Wayne. But each of them was a completely different person.
So on the other
timeline.
I'm the same guy.
Yeah.
I forgot he was in that movie. I completely forgot.
Actually, pretty much.
And by the
Oh, wait, no. That's Justice League. I can't remember.
By the time Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom hit theaters, everyone already knew it was the last gasp of a dying universe. It was technically still part of the DCU,
and that one didn't do as well,
but
right?
narratively, it was already irrelevant. So what's actually canon now? Which stories count, and which ones were quietly erased?
Guys, I'm excited for this video now because I thought I knew, and apparently I'm not even up to date on it. So, okay, let's find out.
To answer that, let's begin with the 2016 Suicide Squad. On paper, this was supposed to be a cornerstone of the DCEU.
Was that
the first time we'd see a team of villains assembled under Amanda Waller's control? But when you look at it now through the lens of the DCU, it's a project that sits in a strange no man's land. Here's why. James Gunn himself later confirmed that Suicide Squad is part of what he calls the loose canon projects. That means it kind of happened, but the details don't line up with the DCU timeline.
Oh, you can't do that. So he might have stuff. Oh, gosh.
For example, in Air's movie, Waller explicitly says the squad was created in response to Superman's arrival.
Yeah.
The logic being, what if another Superman shows up and isn't on our side? But in the new DCU continuity, Superman doesn't even debut until years later.
I will say this, you can do anything with multiverse, which we know exists because of Peacemaker and Superman. We know that exists. So there is that. That is when I kind of give a little bit of leniency.
Which makes that motivation impossible. Then you've got the cameos. Ezra Miller's Flash briefly appears, Ben Affleck's Batman is hunting criminals, and Jared Leto's Joker has his infamous run with Harley Quinn. None of those versions exist in the DCU. Ezra's Flash
is that crazy, guys? It never looked interesting to me. I don't know why. Maybe it was because I knew there wasn't going to be a clip of Superman in there. You know, I don't know. It just never looked interesting.
Isn't canon here. Affleck's Batman is gone, and Gunn has already said the Joker, at least Leto's Joker, isn't coming back. So those appearances are essentially dead weight.
So I have to ask, the DC world is changing, expanding. James Gunn, what did he tease the other day? What did he say? Is Margot coming back as Harley? And he said, all will be revealed.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Titillating.
I guess I'll find out when
say,
everyone else finds out.
You didn't hear it there first.
No, I heard it here first.
So he was hoping she'd say, oh, did he? But instead she was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
What actually survives from this film? Really, just the casting choices that carried forward. Viola Davis as Amanda Waller is still canon. Joel Kinnaman's Rick Flag, though killed later in the Suicide Squad, is also technically a valid carryover. Outside of that, the events of the movie are treated as vague history. There was a Suicide Squad, Waller and Flag ran it.
So that's it? What, we some kind of Suicide Squad?
But the specifics we saw in 2016 don't line up with the DCU's version of events. If the 2016 Suicide Squad was a rough draft, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad in 2021 was the real version. It wasn't just a sequel, it was a complete overhaul. taking the same basic idea but reworking it into something that actually fits the kind of DC universe Gunn wanted to build. And unlike its predecessor, this film left behind pieces that clearly survive into the DCU. Project Starfish, for example, is canon. The Corto Maltese mission, the fight against Storro, the chaos within Task Force X, those events are acknowledged as history in the new continuity.
Did y'all realize that? I don't think I realized that. It's probably because I don't watch Peacemaker. You know, like I that might be, but some of those clues, context clues and stuff, I miss out on.
The death of Rick Flag is also a major turning point that carries weight into Peacemaker, and the fallout of that mission is what shapes Amanda Waller's grip over her operatives, which makes sense since Waller herself remains unchanged in the DCU.
I'm protecting this country. Everyone stand up.
So who from this lineup is safe to call canon? John Cena's Peacemaker, without question. He not only survived the mission, but became central.
That nose piece on that thing, it is never straight. It bumps the left side of his left side. And it bothers me so much. I know it's probably because his nose isn't straight or something like that, but it's never straight. They should have molded that thing to his face, but they didn't. They just made a helmet and stuck it on his head. It bothers me.
To everything Gunn has built since.
Look at it. It's terrible.
Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba, is another confirmed carryover, especially since his rivalry with Superman was clarified by Gunn to not involve Cavill's version, but still remain part of his character's history. King Shark is canon as well, even if his voice actor changed in Creature Commandos. Weasel, against all odds, survived and even reappears in Gunn's upcoming projects. And then, of course, you have the behind-the-scenes staff, Harcourt, Economos, and others, who went on to appear in Peacemaker and are firmly planted in the new DCU. But not everything in this film made the jump. Characters like Mongol and Captain Boomerang don't work in the DCU
That's Mongol?
timeline, mostly because their connections depend on heroes who haven't been established yet. Same with some of the Superman references. Since Gunn's Clark Kent doesn't debut until Superman 2025, any earlier mentions don't hold up as canon. Basically, the heart of the film is intact, but the edges have been trimmed to fit. This is the first real project where you can say, yes, that actually happened in the DCU. It's not perfect continuity, but it works because Gunn can pick out what matters and leave behind what doesn't. And the most important piece of all wasn't Starro or Bloodsport.
Starro, he keeps saying that. Guys, I know, I've said this before, I know this voice actor. I know who this is. And there are little things that let me know he might be using, I don't want to blow your secret, buddy, but he might be using AI to clone his voice, because I'm like, why would you mispronounce Starro? He's a freaking star. Why would you mispronounce that multiple times? I think he's cloning his voice, because it's not an AI voice, it's his actual voice. I know who he is.
Or even Waller. It was Peacemaker, because Gunn used this movie to launch the character who would end up bridging the DCEU and the DCU more than anyone else. Coming out of the Suicide Squad, Gunn wasted no time spinning Peacemaker into his own series. And this is where things get interesting, because Peacemaker Season 1 works almost perfectly as a DCU story, except for one big scene. That infamous Justice League cameo where Aquaman and Flash show up to help, but Superman and Wonder Woman are just shadows in the distance. It looked like a direct tie to the DCEU, proof that Peacemaker's world was still part of Snyder's continuity. That moment was fun, but it's the single part of Season 1 that doesn't fit the new DCU. Gunn later clarified that those weren't Henry, Affleck, or Gal Gadot. They were just placeholders, stand-ins, until his DCU Justice League arrives. And this is where Season 2 comes in. Episode 1 doesn't just continue the story, it quietly rewrites it. The Justice League cameo is now officially reframed as a DCU moment, not a DCU relic. What was once a crossover with the old cast is now a nod that these heroes exist in Gunn's timeline, just not the versions we've seen before. Overnight, the one lingering tether to the Snyderverse was cut. Season 2 also reshapes pieces of Peacemaker's past. His childhood, his trauma, his reputation, all presented in ways that align with the DCU moving forward. It isn't a hard retcon, more like a fine-tuning. The character's arc stays intact, but the details are adjusted to fit inside the new continuity. This makes Peacemaker the perfect bridge between the two universes. Season 1 was almost fully canon, with a single questionable scene. Season 2 erased the ambiguity by rewriting that scene and clarifying Peacemaker's place.
And making sure that his nose piece is not straight. Just making sure. So that everybody knows. Not straight.
He's no longer a leftover from the DCEU, he's now firmly planted as a cornerstone of the DCU.
Peacemaker was always in a weird place. You know, people say he's a part of the
You mean his helmet was in a weird place? Is that what he said?
DCEU, but he wasn't really. He was a part of this in-between universe of DC when there was nobody really, you know, making sure everything was connected, and at a time when they were going to rewrite everything with the Flash. You know, we were kind of able to do whatever we wanted, and we had that brash ending, which I loved, was one of my favorite things in the whole season, but it just didn't fit in with the DCU. And Peacemaker almost, you know, there's hardly anything that you need to change for him to slide very easily into the DCU.
With all the loose canon projects floating around, James Gunn eventually had to draw a line in the sand, and that line is Creature Commandos. According to Gunn himself, this is where the DCU officially begins.
Why would you begin it with a cartoon that most people aren't going to watch? That is so obscure from what you know as the DCU. A lot of people will look at those characters and not even realize they're DC. Why? I liked Superman. I did. But I question these decisions.
Everything before it, Suicide Squad,
I thought it was simple,
2016,
guys. I thought it was like
The Suicide
Superman,
Squad,
boom, starting over.
2021, Peacemaker, and Blue Beetle exists in a gray zone.
Oh,
They're
I'm
canon
starting to get a
only
headache.
in the sense that Gunn chooses to keep certain characters and events, but the first project built entirely for the DCU from day one is Creature Commandos.
DCU begins.
See, I thought it was Superman. Oh my gosh, this is way more confusing than I thought it was going to be, guys. I'm sorry if I told you that this was going to clear things up. It's just made it worse.
Canonically.
That's not against Spidey Parker. That's against James Gunn. Sorry, James.
With Creature Commandos, and then Superman continues the DCU, and then Peacemaker Season 2 continues from there.
On the surface, it's a wild place to start. Instead
It's
of
a
opening
wild
with
place to
Superman or
start.
Batman, Gunn is launching his universe with an animated series about a team of monsters,
That nobody
mercenaries, and outcasts. But that choice says a lot about his strategy. Creature Commandos connects directly to Amanda Waller and the world of Task Force X, meaning it's still tied to what came before, but now fully under Gunn's creative control. And unlike the loose canon projects, there's no baggage here. No messy continuity, no DCEU hangovers, no awkward recasting. It's the clean slate Gunn has been waiting for. What makes this even more important is how Creature Commandos is designed. Gunn has already confirmed that the characters won't just live in animation. The same actors voicing them here will show up in live-action projects down the line. That means this isn't just a side story. It's the foundation of the DCU's shared universe. In a way, it's doing the job Iron Man did for the MCU, starting small, planting seeds, and proving the formula works.
Starting small.
There has been a, you know, even the way Flag looks, you know, is transformative. And as
He dyed his hair
because he didn't want to be in there with white hair. He wanted to seem
very
younger.
vain.
He wanted to seem younger. He's extremely vain.
And yet the placement of Creature Commandos in the timeline makes things tricky for fans trying to organize a rewatch. If canon technically begins here, what do you do with the projects before it? Gunn's answer is simple: treat them as loose canon. Watch the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, and Blue Beetle if you want the full picture, but understand they've been retrofitted into the DCU. Nothing before Creature Commandos is sacred. It only counts because Gunn says it does.
Oh my
Right after
gosh.
Creature Commandos set the technical starting line,
Guys, I can't believe how little of this I knew. I thought that he was just boom, Superman starting new, and then Peacemaker kind of tied in with it. Like that's what I thought it was. I thought Peacemaker just morphed from being part of the DCEU to being part of the DCU. That's what I thought was happening. I was wrong.
James Gunn made a surprising declaration.
Severely.
Jaime Reyes, the Blue Beetle, is officially the first superhero of the DCU. That statement caught fans off guard because Blue Beetle was developed
I
under
kind of am remembering that now.
the old Warner Brothers regime, filmed before Gunn took control, and originally sat on the DCEU slate. By all logic,
This is also why we thought we were getting Henry, because he wasn't like making a clear line
it
in
should
the
have been a
sand.
relic of the old timeline. But Gunn saw an opportunity, and he pulled Jaime forward into the new universe. Why, Jamie? because his story was clean. Blue Beetle didn't lean on the Snyder-era heroes. There were no awkward cameos from Henry's Superman or Affleck's Batman. Instead, the film was self-contained, focusing on Jaime's bond with his family, his discovery of the Scarab, and his struggle to accept the mantle of a hero. That isolation is exactly what made him perfect for the DCU. The only things that don't quite line up are minor details. There's a quick reference to LexCorp, but in the DCU it's called Luthor Corp. And there's a casual mention of the Flash, whose existence in the timeline hasn't been pinned down yet. Aside from those tiny inconsistencies, Blue Beetle slides neatly into the DCU with almost
But we haven't heard, have we heard anything about Blue Beetle since?
no friction, and Gunn isn't stopping at the film. He's already confirmed that Blue Beetle will continue in an upcoming animated series that directly connects to the DCU Zolo Maridueña, will not only reprise his...
I don't know if it's the wisest thing, guys, to connect the animated to the live action, to the like I feel like your TV should be different from your movies, and I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments if I'm just crazy for thinking that, but I feel like that there's too much connection, too much homework required, which James Gunn actually didn't like. But I don't know, maybe he does like it and he's secretly lying to everybody.
Role in voice form, but eventually return in live action whenever Jaime Reyes shows up again. In other words, Jaime isn't just canon, he's a long-term investment.
As a fan, I have to say I'm manifesting a Blue Beetle appearance in upcoming seasons.
You know, I won't say you're not in luck.
I told you I wasn't going anywhere.
So while
What is that?
While Creature Commandos is technically the first DCU project, Blue Beetle is the first hero of this universe, and that title carries weight because it shows exactly how Gunn plans to build his continuity. Character first, canon second.
Guys, this is too confusing. I'm sorry. As a DC guy, really, I'm a Superman guy, but that puts me in the DC world. As a DC guy, I apologize to those of you that are new coming into this. I apologize so much. If you want to make yourself feel better, you can go to my Amazon store where I have all sorts of Superman stuff in one spot just for you. Don't forget to subscribe to this brand new superhero reaction channel. And remember, like Superman, live humbly, do good.